Welcome, everyone, to the Aggie Athletics Coaches Show, brought to you by Charles White State Farm. My name is Shawn Joy, and today we are joined by head men's soccer coach Gabe Gonzalez. Gabe, how are you, my friend?
Good. Thank you.
So you're new here, Gabe. This is your first year in no man's land. Let's talk a little bit about your background and where you came from.
Yeah, so it's exciting to be here. I come from last university that I worked for, Texas A&M and Texarkana. Before that, Lyon College, and before that, I was at a JUCO at Redlands Community College, and then I've coached high school and middle school club as well. So very excited to be here.
We're glad to have you here, and we know you've hit the ground running since you've gotten here. So let's jump right into it. When did the guys get here, and what have you guys been doing these past couple weeks?
Yeah, so the guys got here August 1st, and August 4th is, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd was move-in day. We actually had our athletic testing on the 3rd, and then we started 6 a.m. on Monday with 3 sessions a day. That's what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. 6 a.m. is fitness, 2 p.m. is heat acclimation, and then in the evening is all tactical, working on rotations and patterns of play. So,
explain to me, what's a little bit of that heat acclimation? What does that look like?
Just
it gets a little hot out here in the handle sometimes.
Yeah, so we just try to get them used to the heat, of course, and we don't necessarily push them too hard. It's just them being out there working through some passing patterns, and that's pretty much it. Some of the guys have never experienced this heat, so is that time for them to get acclimated to the weather here.
Good deal, Coach. So you guys just scrimmaged Seward County last week. Talk about that a little bit. They came here and played you guys. What did you see? What did you like? What did you not like? But give us a little bit of an overview of that first scrimmage against Seward from last week.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say because we have so many guys out. We have some injuries and things like that. We don't like to use it as an excuse, but we would have liked to seen some of the guys the top guys that we brought in. Unfortunately, they're going through some injuries, so we weren't able to see that. But nonetheless, I think it was a good show. Some of the guys that didn't really stand out in the first few days, they were able to come in and do a job for us. And so slowly but surely, we keep telling them injuries are going to happen. It's some of you guys are going to be called up, and sure enough, some of these guys came in and it really impressed us. So very excited on that. The one thing that we want to continue to work on is obviously building our identity. I think that's one of the first things, going from last year to this year. I asked the guys at the team meeting, I asked them what's our identity. They had no idea. And so this year, that's what we're trying to establish, an identity. And I think going against Seward, it helped us kind of see that, build on that. And so very excited for the next one.
So the next one, speaking of that, it's Garden City coming up. What are some things that you want to see improve? Obviously getting healthy is important, and there's only so much you can do with that. But what are some things that you want to see from the Seward County scrimmage to the Garden City scrimmage that you think will be a good sign for you guys?
I think for us is just continue to build on that identity. A lot of our play is positional play. We like to overload one side of the field. We like to, whether we press or we possess the ball. We want to be in control. I think that's mainly for us. The rotations, it's huge for us. So as soon as the guys get it, I think it's going to start looking pretty good. But I think right now, that's the goal, just establishing that identity, the rotation, the movement off the ball. I think that's very important for us.
You've mentioned identity a few times so far. What's the identity that Coach Gonzalez wants OPSU soccer to have? What's the identity that the guys want to have? What do you think going forward that identity is what you guys want? What do you want to see it look like?
I think for us, in order to be able to compete in, just the next few games in non-conference and even the SAC, I think we have to, be able to manipulate the opponent. We want to keep the ball. We want to rotate. We want to find the space. And so, I think it's very important for us to maintain that, to do well with that. Otherwise, I think it's gonna be tough. Especially in the SAC is one of the most competitive conferences in the country, and so you have to do everything that you can in order to gain an advantage. And I think for us, the rotation, the positional play, the runs in behind, being able to mix it up, I think it's going to be huge for us. We are aware of the MacU, the John Brown, all those teams that are, well established, and that's what we're trying to do here, establish, us, for them to see, oh, we played OPSU and this is the way that they played, rather than just saying, oh, we just played OPSU. So I think that's important for us.
Good deal. You've only been here, a short period of time, and some of these guys are new and some are returners, and you guys are still finding your identity. So far, what do you think some strengths are of the group of guys you have? What are some things right now you can hang your hat on looking at this team?
I think going from last year to this year, I think the guys were hungry for, or they were craving, they were, some structure. And I think that's one of the things that we take pride on. Coach Dante and I, being able to be well structured. We have, weekly schedules. We have everything set up from the 6 a.m. Session all the way to the 7 p.m. session. And so we, even our weight room sessions, we have everything structured to where we're not wasting any time. And I think a lot of the guys, the returners especially, they have a lot of maturity. They wanted that, they wanted the preparation in a sense to make them, obviously kind of stay focused, stay engaged, not lose track of, what we're trying to achieve. And I think the other thing is that, we do have quite a few returners. We have about 10 returners. And so we have a lot of maturity there, a lot of about 8 seniors. So I think that's going to help us going into the SAC. We have, our back line is very mature, or very strong. I think that's, what we, I think that's what we're going to rely upon, quite a bit. But the midfield is something that we're still working on.
So to kind of jump into that, weaknesses, what are some things so far that have jumped off to you that you've got to get better at to not only compete in the SAC but win? What are some things that jump out to you so far about getting better?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding like the fitness part. I think like for us is whenever we talk about coaching, we go into the 4 aspects, especially in soccer: physical, technical, tactical, and the psychological part. And I think the physical part, for them to understand that, a lot of the times you're going to make a run, you're going to, spend quite a bit of time without the ball, but how do you, stay in the game? And I think for us, it's that, a lot of the guys, the newer guys, they want to have the ball at their feet, and
they want the ball, coach. They want to score.
They want to score, of course. And so I think that's one of the things that we're still struggling with. And as soon as we're able to share the ball, I think we'll be in a great position.
There's only one ball, right?
right.
Everybody wants it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk a little bit about the breakdown of your team: returner, newcomer, transfer. Just kind of give us a little bit of an idea about, is it a lot of international guys? Is it a good mix? Just kind of look at your roster and kind of give us a brief overview of like how the team's kind of broken down.
Yeah, so we have about 10 returners. Most of them are international, except for one American player, Oklahoma player. And then the rest of, we have about 19 new players. About 6 of them are transfers, and the rest of them are freshmen. So I think we have a good mix. I think, even though they're freshmen or transfer, I think that the maturity that they have, the experience that they have from back in their home countries, I think it's really helpful for us. Like I said, we have a few guys that really impressed us, that we were like, we bring him in and okay, he's going to be a good player, maybe in a year or two, but they stood out. And so I think that's the thing. The mix, the maturity, and the new guys, I think they're all ready to compete. So I think it's a good group, mostly internationals. We have 1 Oklahoma player and then 2 Texas players, and the rest of them are, international.
Yeah, it's a good deal. What, you have these couple scrimmages to start out with, and you play a couple non-cons. What's the biggest thing that you want your guys to get better at or get going? Because once you get to the SAC, we know how it is. Football, baseball, softball, volleyball, it's one of the best conferences in the nation.
Right.
What do you want the non-conference and the early season scrimmages to do for your guys to get you ready for that gauntlet that is the SAC?
I think, of course, we want to be, successful. We want to win, but I think we want to win the right way. We want to make sure that we play our way. We find or we create opportunities that we have it to where we do classroom sessions. We've ran into Corey. Like we're trying to use the same space, and I guess he's not used to because it hasn't been a thing in the past. But for us, we do a lot of classroom sessions where we watch a lot of film. We watch a lot of film. And the reason why we do that is because we want the players to take ownership of their development, And so when we talk about rotation, we talk about specific moments, specific cues. And so when a player is not engaged, he's not on it, and he misses a cue, he misses a rotation, then we can go back and say specifically, this should have been you, And so I think accountability and responsibility, I think are big into going into the non-conference and the conference, of course. But we want to make sure that the players understand what we're asking of them specifically. That way, there's no confusion. And so I think if we're able to do that, I think we're going to be we're going to do well, I believe.
Gotcha. So I want you to talk a little bit about we have a turf surface, at Anchor D Stadium. What are the differences or the things that maybe people don't realize the difference between playing on natural surface and turf, and how does that affect the way your style and the way you want to play? Kind of talk about turf and soccer a little bit.
Right. So I think, obviously the heat is one the biggest difference, but it also, turf, the turf that we have here, it allows the ball to roll a little bit quicker, as opposed to grass. Also, we have, it's interesting that you mentioned that because most of the games that we're going to play on grass, so we have to, find a way to adjust to that. It's going to be a challenge for us, but I think the guys overall, if we go through what we're trying to achieve, the movement, the rotation, I think at the end, in the end, it's gonna be okay, But yeah, it's a big difference. Obviously, sliding, we have some guys that have some turf burns and things like that. But overall, I think it's just the speed. But I think we'll be fine.
On the flip side of that, will there be an advantage for you guys at home when teams come in here that don't play on turf? Does it go both ways? Can it be an advantage also for us that we play on it or practice on it a lot, and some teams don't? Is that an advantage for us at home?
Absolutely. I think, the heat acclimation is one thing, like players coming in or teams coming in here and not being used to the heat, and so I think we can use that to our advantage. Also, the fact that our field is pretty big, so it's large. So I think that's going to be to our advantage because we like to spread the field, and so teams that are used to possessing the ball, they're going to have to occupy more space, and there's going to be longer distances, and there's going to be more running. So I think we can use that to our advantage for sure.
Style of play wise, and you've hit it on it a little bit so far, but style of play wise, I know obviously coaches, you have to work with what you got, and maybe down the road when you recruit more of your players, the style look different. But give us kind of a preview. Is it going to be more of a offensive looking strike? Is it going to be more of a defensive kind of? What's the style of play this year for this season look like for the Aggies?
I think it's a mixture of both. When we talk about practicing, when we talk about watching film, we talk about pressing, which is defending, high up the field, counter pressing, what happens when we lose the ball, who pressures. And so, but also whenever we attack, we want to, in soccer, when you don't have the ball, you tuck in, you get compact. When you do have the ball, you spread out, you utilize the space. But I think it's a mixture of both. I think we're in a good spot right now. Where the guys understand that part that, I mentioned identity and trying to play. There's going to be times that it also depends on the moment of the game. There's a thing called game state where you press, sometimes you sit, and so a lot of the times for us, the idea is to maintain possession, to keep the ball, to be able to move and manipulate the opponent, like I said. And I think it's a good mix for us. We definitely have the players to be able to keep the ball. They're very technical, and I think they're physically, we looked at them this morning. We did our fitness session, and, going from last year to this year, I think we we look like a soccer team, like a proper soccer team. So I think that's going to be huge for us in establishing, that style of play.
Let's move off the pitch for a little bit. What are your guys? A lot of international guys,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guys that have been here for a few years. What do your guys do off the field, off campus, on campus? Kind of, what do your guys do to kind of have fun and pass the time here in No Man's Land?
Yeah, so I came in March, and this is the spring season. I was scrambling to, find games for the spring season, and I was able to find, 3 scrimmages and whatnot, and we were able to get some practices in. But otherwise, I think, there's not much for them, here to do. But what we try to do is sometimes we would go and play in the Noble Center. We would play basketball, pickleball, things like that. That way the guys were, obviously doing something. But outside of that, I think most of them, like we have, a few players being international, they don't have a vehicle, right? So they can't move around. But that's where it comes. The other players come in to play, being able to give them rides to Walmart or to town, and go out to dinner in Guyman, and so I think for us, the idea going into the fall, of course, we're going to be super busy, but once the, fall season, once the season's over, we're looking to do a lot of team bonding activities, community service, and so we want to make sure that the guys stay engaged and they're comfortable here. I think that's the last part of the development, or the most important part, I guess I should say, is the psychological part, where if they don't feel good about being here, then they're not going to perform. So we want to make sure that they're in a good headspace, as they should.
Good. But what's the goal? What's the realistic expectation? Like, you're going into this year with the guys, new coach, new group, new identity, all those new things. But what are you guys looking for this year? What's the ceiling, or what's the goal or expectation for this season for Aggie soccer?
For us is conference. We want to make the conference tournament. We want to make sure that we're in there. I think, like we said, MACU, John Brown, Oklahoma City, USAO, but then there's the teams in the middle and then towards the bottom, and that we really think that we can push for a spot in the conference tournament. But in order for us to be able to achieve that, I think we're just going to obviously, hopefully, stay healthy. That's one of the biggest things. And then the other one is obviously stay together, stay united. And but yeah, the idea is the conference tournament. I think I'm very excited going into from the last 2 years at Texas A&M and Texarkana, being able to qualify for the quarterfinals, and so I think that's huge for us. So that's the goal.
Well, good. We look forward to seeing you guys work your way there and do the things the right way, and we're excited. So, well, Coach, we appreciate having you on today. You've been great to talk to, and we're looking forward to going out to Anchor D Stadium and watching you guys.
Absolutely. Come out and support us. Thank you.
Well, that does it for our latest episode of The Coaches Show, brought to you by Charles White State Farm. We'll see you next time.